They posted the pictures online, the whole family smiling on a beach in Hawaii. My parents, my brothers, their wives and kids, everyone but me. The caption read, "Family is everything." I stared at the screen, my heart cracking. They didn't just forget me. They deliberately left me out, but they had no idea what I had just inherited. And soon, they'd beg for a piece of it. My name is Walter, and I'm sitting here on this porch for a reason. Let me tell you a story about family, revenge, and a secret that changed everything. My family never really saw me. I was the quiet one, the sensitive son who preferred books to business talks. My older brothers, Mark and David, were the stars. They went into finance with my dad. I became a librarian. To them, I was basically a ghost at family gatherings, someone to politely ignore. The final straw came last month. We all got a group text from my mom about coordinating schedules for the summer. I replied quickly, saying my vacation days were flexible. My messages were met with silence. A week later, the flood of photos began on social media. There they were, all 15 of them, at a gorgeous resort in Maui. My mom had her arm around my sister-in-law. My dad and brothers were toasting on a sunset cruise. The kids were building sandcastles. The caption from my brother Mark was the knife twist, "So blessed to be with all the people that matter." I sat in my small apartment, surrounded by silence, and felt a hollow ache. I didn't get a call, a text, or even a fake excuse. They just went, and they made sure I knew I wasn't invited. For 2 days, I wallowed. I cried, I got angry, I ate too much ice cream. Then, on the third day, a thick, official-looking letter arrived. It was from a law firm, Franklin and Lowe. My great-aunt Agnes had passed away. I hadn't seen her in years. She was the black sheep of the family, considered eccentric because she lived alone with her cats and painted weird art. The letter stated I was required to attend the reading of her will. I almost didn't go. What could she possibly have? A box of old china? Another cat? My family was still in Hawaii, posting more pictures, so I put on my only suit and went downtown. The office was fancy. I was the only one there. The lawyer, a serious woman named Ms. Reed, offered her condolences and got straight to it. Agnes was a very private woman, she said, and a very shrewd investor. She slid a document across the desk. I was her sole beneficiary. I blinked, sure I'd heard wrong. Sole beneficiary of what? Ms. Reed allowed a small smile. Of everything, Mr. Thompson. Her estate is quite substantial. The numbers she mentioned next made my ears ring. It wasn't just comfortable money. It was life-altering, generational wealth. Aunt Agnes, the woman my family mocked, had quietly built a fortune in the stock market and real estate. She left clear instructions, everything to me, Walter. Her reasoning was in a handwritten note attached. "Walter," it read, "you were the only one who ever saw me as a person, not a problem. You sent me cards. You asked about my paintings. You have a kind heart. Use this to build a life that makes you happy and be wiser than the rest of them." I walked out of that office a different man. The hurt from Hawaii was still there, but it was now wrapped in a new, steely layer of clarity. They had chosen to exclude me, and I now had the power to make that exclusion the biggest mistake of their lives. I didn't tell a soul. I quietly hired a financial advisor Ms. Reed recommended. I paid off my student loans and my car. I bought a nice, but not flashy, house in a good neighborhood. I kept my job at the library because I loved it. Meanwhile, my family returned from vacation, suntanned and full of stories. They called me for the first time in weeks to come to a Sunday barbecue. "We missed you," my mom chirped, as if the Hawaii trip had never happened. I went. I smiled. I listened to them brag about the snorkeling and the luau. Then my brother David clapped me on the back. "So, Walt, how's the book business? Keeping the shelves dusty?" They all chuckled. I just smiled. "It's quiet," I said, "but I'm making some changes." They didn't ask what changes. They just moved on to talking about Mark's new boat. The first real test came a month later. My dad called, his voice strained. "Walter, your brother Mark, he's in a bit of a bind, a bad investment. He needs to bridge a loan for about $200,000 just for 6 months. The bank is being difficult. We're all chipping in, but we're short. Can you contribute anything? Even $5,000 would help." This was it, the first hand reaching into my new world. I felt a cold calm. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said, sounding genuinely regretful. "With the housing market and everything, my savings are really tied up right now. I just can't swing it." There was a long silence. I could hear his disappointment. "Right, of course. Well, don't worry about it." He hung up quickly. I knew what they'd say. Typical Walter. Never has any money when it counts. They managed to scramble the money together without me. At the next family dinner, the atmosphere was cooler towards me. My mom asked vague questions about my future plans. My brothers talked loudly about risk and responsibility. I just ate my meatloaf. The revenge wasn't in saying no. It was in letting them believe I was still the same broke, insignificant Walter. Let them think I couldn't help. Let them reinforce their own story about me. My secret grew heavier and more powerful inside me. I started looking at their lives with new eyes. Mark's boat, David's huge mortgage for his McMansion, my dad's struggling business that was always one big deal away from collapse. They lived on a house of cards, and they had no idea I was now the wind. The opportunity presented itself perfectly. My dad's company, Thompson Solutions, hit a major crisis. A key client pulled out, and a line of credit was called in. He needed a cash injection of $1.2 million to survive. The family went into panic mode. I heard it all through my sister-in-law, Lisa, who sometimes felt guilty about how they treated me. "They're losing their minds, Walter," she whispered on the phone. "They're talking about selling houses, the boat, everything. Your dad looks 10 years older." I thanked her and told her to hang in there. I waited. I let the panic build. I let them exhaust all their options. Then I put on my best suit and walked into my dad's office unannounced. He was on the phone, yelling at a banker. He looked exhausted and defeated. When he saw me, he waved me in, covering the receiver. "Walter, not a good time." "I think it's the perfect time," I said calmly, taking a seat. He finished his call, slamming the phone down. "What is it? If this is about borrowing money, I told you we're tapped out." "I'm not here to borrow money, Dad," I said. "I'm here to provide it." He stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. I slid a simple term sheet from my briefcase across his desk. "I'll lend the company the $1.2 million. The terms are all there." He picked up the paper, his hands trembling slightly. As he read, his eyes grew wide. The interest rate was fair. The collateral was the company itself. And at the bottom, the lender's name, W. Thompson Holdings, LLC. W. Thompson Holdings? What is this, Walter? Is this a joke? His face was a mixture of confusion and dawning, horrifying realization. "It's no joke," I said. "I came into some money recently. Aunt Agnes's estate." The color drained from his face. "Aunt Agnes, that old bat, she didn't have 2 cents to rub together." "It turns out she did," I said softly. "And she left all of it to me." I let that sink in. I watched as his mental math did the calculation, the Hawaii trip, the ignored calls, the decades of dismissal, all crashing into this moment. You have that kind of money?" "I do," I nodded. "And I'm willing to save your company. But we do it my way, on my terms, as a business transaction. No family discounts." The news exploded through the family like a bomb. My mom called, crying, asking how I could be so cruel. My brothers called, first yelling, then bargaining. I held firm. I wasn't a villain, I was a businessman offering a solution they desperately needed. They had no choice. My dad signed the papers, his signature shaky. The money transferred. I owned a large chunk of the family business, and I had a seat on the board. The first board meeting was the following week. I arrived early. I watched them file in my dad, my brothers, a few key investors. They couldn't look at me. The meeting began. They discussed minor operational issues. Then I cleared my throat. "I have a proposal," I said. All eyes turned to me, filled with dread. "I've been reviewing the company's client portfolio," I began, my voice steady. "We're over-reliant on a few big accounts, which is what caused this crisis. I propose we diversify by launching a new community outreach division." My brother Mark scoffed. "Outreach? What does that even mean? Handing out sandwiches? We need profit, not charity?" I looked right at him. "It means building a brand people trust. It means funding literacy programs and small business grants in underserved areas. It's long-term brand equity." I presented the plan I'd worked on for weeks. It was smart, it was sustainable, and it would genuinely do good. It was also the exact opposite of my family's cutthroat, short profit philosophy. My dad, beaten and pragmatic, saw the logic. "It has merit," he grumbled. The vote passed. I was put in charge of the new initiative. With the company's money and my direction, the Thompson Community Foundation launched. We partnered with libraries, I knew some people, schools, and local nonprofits. The positive press was immediate. For the first time, our company name was associated with generosity, not just greed. My family hated it. They saw it as a waste of their money. But they couldn't argue with the glowing newspaper articles or the improved corporate reputation. I, Walter the librarian, was suddenly the public face of the company's heart. I was invited to speak at chambers of commerce. My picture was in the business section. My family was invited to these events too, but they were now the background players. People wanted to talk to me. The real twist came about 4 months in. A major national corporation, known for its ethical sourcing and community focus, was looking for a new regional partner. Our main competitor was a shoe-in for the contract. But then, the CEO of the national company saw a feature on our foundation in a magazine. She was impressed. She reached out for a meeting. My dad and brothers were ecstatic. This was the big deal that could secure the company for decades. They prepared a flashy, numbers-heavy presentation. At the meeting, they did most of the talking. The CEO, a sharp woman named Alina Vance, listened politely. Then she turned to me. "And you, Walter, you run the foundation. What does this potential partnership mean for the community side of the business?" Every head swiveled to me. My brothers looked nervous. I didn't talk about profit margins. I talked about impact. I spoke about the specific communities we could uplift together, about creating apprenticeship programs tied to their supply chain, about real, measurable social good. I spoke from the heart because it was the work I genuinely cared about. Alina Vance nodded slowly, a real smile on her face. She spent the rest of the meeting asking me questions. The $20 million partnership was signed 2 weeks later. The condition: I had to be personally involved in overseeing the community integration aspects. I was no longer just the lender on the board, I was the key to the company's biggest success. The power dynamic in the family completely inverted. My dad was grudgingly respectful. My brothers were seething but terrified of me. I held the debt. I held the key to the biggest client. One night, Mark showed up at my new house. He didn't even pretend to be friendly. "What's your end game, Walter? You humiliated us. You took over. What more do you want?" I looked at him from my doorway. "I wanted a seat at the table, Mark. You guys wouldn't give me one, so I bought the table." I closed the door. The revenge wasn't about hurting them financially. I'd saved them after all. It was about forcing them to see me, to respect me, to need me. And it was about proving that their values, flashy boats, exclusive vacations, were hollow. The final piece of my plan involved the original wound, the family vacation. Christmas was coming. My mom, trying desperately to glue the family back together, announced she was booking a huge ski chalet in Colorado for everyone. "My treat," she said brightly at Sunday dinner. "All of us together, it'll be healing." She looked right at me, pleading. Everyone waited for my response. I wiped my mouth with a napkin. "It sounds lovely, Mom, but I'm afraid I can't make it." The table went silent. "Why not?" David snapped. I smiled my polite, gentle smile, the same one I'd used all my life when they dismissed me. "Oh, I have prior commitments. I'm taking a trip of my own to the Maldives. I leave the same day." The shock on their faces was priceless. The Maldives made Hawaii look cheap. "You're going to the Maldives? By yourself?" my mom stammered. "Not exactly," I said. I pulled out my phone and showed them a picture. It was me, standing with a group of 10 people, librarians, community center directors, people from the nonprofits we worked with. We were all grinning in a photo from a planning dinner. I'm taking the foundation's core team, a working retreat to plan next year's projects, as a thank you for their amazing work. I was using my money to reward the people who actually built something good, not the people who simply shared my DNA. The message was clear. This is my family now. I went to the Maldives. I posted pictures of us brainstorming on the beach, of laughing over dinners, of genuine connection. Meanwhile, my family group chat was filled with tense, forced photos from Colorado. The snow was beautiful, but the mood was frosty. Lisa, my sister-in-law, privately texted me, "They're miserable. They just fight. All they do is talk about you and what you did to them. You're winning, Walter." I wasn't trying to win. I was just finally living. The revenge was my happiness, my success, my peace, all built without them and in spite of them. When we all returned, things came to a head. My dad asked me for a private lunch. At the restaurant, he looked old. "Your mother is heartbroken," he said. "The family is broken. Was this all really necessary? Because we didn't take you on one vacation?" I put my fork down. "No, Dad, it was necessary because you never took me on any vacation. You never took me, period." For 35 years, I was an afterthought. The vacation was just the photo proof. You showed me exactly where I stood, so I found a new place to stand. He had no answer. He just asked, quietly, "What do you want to make this right?" I told him the truth. "I don't know if it can be made right, but it starts with you all seeing me as I am, not as who you decided I was." Change was slow, but it came. My brothers, facing the reality that I was now their boss in every way that mattered, began a chilly, professional détente. My mom started calling me just to talk, not to ask for anything. The funniest thing happened, though. With the pressure to perform for the family gone, I started to relax. I even found myself enjoying some of our business meetings. I had good ideas, and now people listened. The company was more profitable and more respected than ever. My secret wealth was no longer a secret, it was just a fact. And I was no longer Walter the pushover, but Walter the quiet force. A year after the Hawaii trip, Aunt Agnes's final secret was revealed. Ms. Reed called me back to her office. There was one more asset, she explained, held in a trust until certain conditions were met. It was a large, undeveloped waterfront property just outside the city. Its value was astronomical. The condition for release was that I had to have held my inheritance for 1 year without being swayed by familial pressure to divest it. Aunt Agnes had known my family well. She was giving me not just money, but a test, and I had passed. With this land, I could build anything. I decided to build a community arts center named after Agnes. It would have studios, galleries, and free classes. I presented the plan to my family, not for approval, but as a courtesy. To my shock, my dad spoke up. "I'd like to help," he said. "Not with money, with the construction logistics, it's what I know." It was an olive branch, the first real one, I accepted. For the first time, we worked on a project as equals with a shared goal that wasn't about profit but about legacy, a better kind than he'd ever imagined. The Arts Center broke ground last spring. My dad and I are there almost every weekend, checking on progress. We don't talk much about the past. We talk about foundation depths and light fixtures. It's enough. My brothers still keep their distance, but they manage the company day to day, which is what they always wanted. I focus on the foundation and the arts center. The family vacation this year is to a lake house. I was invited. I said yes. It was fine, not magical but not painful. I had my own room and my own rental car just in case. So that's my story. They invited everyone except me on a family vacation. They found out my secret, that I had wealth, yes, but more importantly, that I had strength, vision, and a heart they'd never bothered to look for. I didn't destroy them. I outgrew them. And in doing so, I gave them a chance to grow a little too, though I can't say they all took it. The revenge wasn't in taking something away from them. It was in finally giving myself what I always deserved, respect and a seat at my own table. Now I sit on this porch, which is on the property of the nearly finished Agnes Thompson Art Center. In a few weeks, we'll open the doors. My dad will cut the ribbon. My mom will probably cry. My brothers might not come, and that's okay. The people who matter will be here, the librarians, the teachers, the artists, the kids who will finally have a place to belong. Aunt Agnes's secret gave me more than money. It gave me back to myself. And it showed my family that the person they left behind was the only one building a legacy worth remembering. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply a life lived well, on your own terms. And mine, finally, is.